Wouldn't you love to create your own personal oasis? What is an oasis, you ask? An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find at AJO Consulting Services, LLC. AJO Consulting Services is a company that provides individuals, communities, and businesses of color with coaching and consulting services, personal and professional development, as well as social and community connection services. These services include, but are not limited to, dating, life, relationship, and business coaching, finance management, travel experience curation, wellness navigation, and much more. Are you ready to find, connect, and release? Come experience your oasis today. Visit our website to learn more at www.ajoconsultingservices.com. Follow us on Facebook at AJO Consulting and Instagram at AJO Consult. Also, email us at info@ajoconsultingservices.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Miss AJ. Thanks for tuning in. An oasis is something that provides refuge, relief, or a pleasant contrast, and that is exactly what you will find tuning into the Oasis podcast. This is a space where I and special guests will be cultivating intentional and honest conversations about life's journey. Subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts and watch us on YouTube now. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the Oasis podcast. Thank you all for joining us again. And look who is back on the episode. Hey, Mac, the travel guy. Hey, what's up?
What's going on? What's going on? Thank you for having me again as a guest on your podcast.
It's been a while.
It has been. And some things have come up.
Yeah. Some things you're talking about?
Yeah. Definitely got some conversation, around vacations, solo travel versus group travel, things of that nature.
Okay. So once again, some background for those of you, this is the first time you're seeing myself and Mr. Mac, the travel guy. We met in a travel group on Facebook. Was it Facebook?
It was Facebook. It was a travel group.
Yes. And it was, a group for, I think, singles who like to travel and were willing to essentially meet someone and travel with them, right? And see where it went. Very interesting group. A lot of things happened in that group, a lot of funny stories, a lot of what stories that we discussed on a previous episode. So go ahead and check that out. But on this episode, we are going to do solo travel versus group traveling, which also includes vacation locations. So we did a previous episode on vacations about our experiences of vacation. We're going to do a little mini follow-up with that one, but also really talk about what solo travel looks like versus what group traveling looks like for those of you who are interested in maybe doing solo traveling, or those of you who not sure how to kind of maneuver group traveling. We are going to give you all the tips, all right, to how to maneuver that, and also trying to plan your first vacation. Of course, listen to that episode, but we're going to give some more tips and tools about making sure you choose a perfect location depending on how long you've been with your partner, and to kind of choose places that are conducive to hopefully a successful vacation for you all. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I know, again, you can know by his name, Mac the travel guy. He loves to travel. Honestly, I think you're probably one of the first few dudes that said they like to travel and they actually did it. Okay. like dudes love to be like, hey, I travel. I'm like, where you been to? You got a passport? And question mark. But I know you love to travel. You also do travel alone. And I know in our previous episode, we talked about, a little bit about some solo traveling and the differences, I think, of how to maneuver that when you're a man versus a woman, and choosing the right locations and things of that nature. So we could touch up about that a little bit. But Mac loves to travel. I know you have your Instagram page and your YouTube. I'm not 100% sure, if you deep into it, but I know you started it. definitely have those things up and going. I know you love a good little cigar and a little, cigar lounge and things like that. So drop those tools for those fellas out here. But Mac is out here in these streets. He loves to travel. He be outside. So let's start out by talking about where did your love for travel come from and what kind of got you to this space of wanting to share your experiences of travel with people?
Wow. Well, that is one heck of an intro to have to follow up. So that being said, my journey for travel really started out when I was a kid. I come from a huge family, and we did a lot of road trips for family reunions, down south, out Midwest. But it's funny because now as an adult, I kind of had to backtrack, go to Colorado. I remember, going out there. That was a pit stop on the way to a reunion. We had relatives who lived in Boulder. And, we went up to Pikes Peak and all that, so it's a lot of things that I've done as a kid that I kind of feel like I have to repeat as an adult, but that's where the love of travel came from, or the introduction to travel rather, but the actual love and passion for traveling really came about. I think I took my first solo cruise in 2012, and that's where I just kind of fell in love with it. I was like, this is wow. You wake up, in a different place every day on a cruise anyway. And it evolved from there. Fast forward to 2017, I took my first solo trip abroad, by Amsterdam and Egypt. So that was an experience that just kind of put my eyes up to a lot of things and exposure.
Okay. I mean, it sounds great. Your experience with travel started as a child. I think mine was different. I mean, I traveled here and there as a kid, but not really. I remember going to Montreal with my mom. She used to do little church trips. And mostly where I've been growing up was seeing family. So we would go to Florida or to Boston. I think we had some family in Virginia, but we didn't do extensive trips, and we didn't do a lot of big family trips. So I didn't really do a bulk of my traveling until I got older. And honestly, I did most of my traveling within my 20s into my 30s. So my love for travel kind of slowly grew because I always had a fear of planes. And so that kept me oh, I don't like fly. But I had to really be F that. I gotta do what I have to do. You can't get to your destination if you don't take this plane. So I had to figure it out. And since I traveled with my fear, so even till now, I still have a fear, but I do it. And I've, been tons of places, still have a lot of places I still would like to visit, but I love traveling, love the experience of being in a new place. And for me, it's a good reset. I don't know how you feel when you travel, kind of what the thought process is, but it's a great reset for me, of just putting things into perspective back home. You know what I mean? You might be stressed at home, or you might be going through some things, but when you travel, it gives me a sense of feeling blessed, right? Having the ability to even do that. And also it just gives me a fresh perspective when I do go home. I have fresh eyes. I just feel better. I'm able to really kind of just examine things with new lenses. And that's one thing I always tell people: if you can, how you can travel, leave where you are used to, find a different place or space to be at, and start small. If you're afraid, take road trips, and the US is huge too, right? And this is assuming you live in the US. If you do, if not, wherever you are, visit that place, right? Visit the different parts of that place, different neighborhoods you haven't been into if you can't afford to go far, but just have an open mind of being a stranger, being a guest, right? Being someone who is not from there. Let yourself feel that uncomfortability. I think I learned a lot about myself doing that. I don't know if you also had that same experience, because I know you've solo traveled all over. So you were able to, immerse yourself and kind of be uncomfortable in that space.
Yeah, 2 points that I want to touch on. One, I didn't know you had the fear of flying.
I know, right? People don't believe when I tell them,
wow.
Boys, I know.
That's wild. And I forgot the other point, but I may circle back to that. But to your last point about traveling, that feeling of vulnerability, right? Stepping off the plane and one, not knowing the language, because I like the language barrier is real. I mean, don't get me wrong, Google is our best friend when it comes to translation, but sometimes, learning a new language before you get there can definitely go a long way. Like, for instance, in France, in Paris, I was told that, the French are, for lack of better words or terms, snobby-ish. And some people will correlate that with race and whatnot. I just took it as a French thing, right? So I spoke very little, just enough, like my name is, and like where do I go? How can I find it? But going into a restaurant and then trying to read the menu, which they don't have dual language, right? It's like, wow. I really had to learn it. And it's not that they're not helpful, but they're like, listen, you have been like my country. Like, you gotta learn how to speak my language. So I've had those experiences. I think the thrill of it is getting lost, right? I think that's a whole part of, travel, right? Trying to figure things out. Like me, I like to walk around a lot, especially, in a new place, new country, city. It's I'm trying to think of the right word or phrase, but I think everybody's been there, that feeling of, oh, I'm lost, I don't know where I'm at, or where do I go? But in a sense, when you find yourself, like, for instance, my first time in Paris, I walked to the Eiffel Tower from my hotel. So that was very interesting. I could see it because it's huge from where it's at. So I was like, okay, maybe if I walk in this direction, that'll get me to it. So that was pretty cool, because I ran into some other things that I didn't know was there, like the obelisk, for those that are up on Egyptian, like our history, seeing hieroglyph in Paris, like, wait, where did this come from? And so that was a whole history lesson in and of itself. So yeah, I definitely understand with that. I try to encourage people to take a solo trip at least once. And it doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't have to be abroad. I mean, some folks, we know some people that haven't even really left out of their own zip code. And for whatever reason, they won't go. But I think it's a fantastic way, as you said, to learn more about yourself than what you come to know in your present state.
Absolutely. I definitely recommend travel, period, but definitely take one trip by yourself. Like, it's scary and also invigorating and freeing and all the things. Like, it's something about it, being able to, if you ever done group travel, so you already know you have to like do so much agreeing. We're going to talk about that. But taking a solo trip, knowing I can get up when I want to get up and go when I want to go. I do an episode on solo travel where I took my first solo trip. Well, since at that time, that was my first solo trip. And I loved it. Everyone was so scared, like, oh my gosh, you go by yourself? What do you mean? What are you gonna do? I'm like, I'll be okay. Like, I'll drop my location. And you know what it is too, I think, coming from, I'm, born and raised in Brooklyn. So we got a mindset, we gotta, you know what I mean? Like, everybody trying to do you some harm. So you better be careful. But reality is, a lot of people are really nice. Like, they're really nice. Versus like being in New York or being in the city, like, where no one wants to help you, everyone's giving you the side eye, you know what I mean? Everyone is not trusting. Other places, people are really nice, they want to help you, and they don't really bother you if you don't really bother them. So
I, wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. But that last statement, I have so many conversations with people. In particular, like my sister, I've been trying to get her to like just get out. And part of that is because, one, her and her friends, their work schedules, don't necessarily align. So when she's off, they're not, that whole thing, how that goes. And so she's always like, I want to travel, I want to go. Now, I will say, I'm in a position, thankfully, where I kind of have the extreme flexibility to just kind of like take time. And I get talked about he's always gone, he's always traveling, he's never at work. So when I find these deals, I try to send them out, to people that want to travel. But yeah, to your point, I've never felt unsafe, if you will. in a foreign country. And I know sometimes people will say, well, you're a man, so it's different, than being a woman. And I know plenty of women that travel solo, and unfortunately, most will tell you that they feel the most unsafe here on U.S. soil for whatever reason. Now, there have been some stories, seen it, and I think the movie Taken has really like given a whole new given the perspective on traveling that people never thought about, right? But it also kind of keeps people grounded, if you will, because they're like, well, man, I don't want to go to Europe because I go to Europe and then I get off the plane and they're gonna snatch me right up. Little do they know, and I mean, you brought up Brooklyn, but I'll bring up Times Square. People that know the history of Times Square, and the buses pulling, Greyhound buses pulling the Port Authority, them guys, they can see you looking because you're looking at all the lights, like, oh yeah, you're not from here. So
yep.
But that can happen in any town, USA, can happen in any country. I always tell people to be cognizant where you're at, your surroundings, and listen to those physiological changes that your body will go through, because your body will let you know, like, hey, the hairs, as they say, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, you get the goosebumps, something ain't right, so it's time for you, to make an exit. But that said, it's extremely fun. It's liberating, your first trip is going to be scary. Anything you do for the first time is going to be scary, right? Because you've never done it. But yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great. So we already kind of jumped in and started talking about solo travel. What do you feel? I mean, we already kind of talked about some of the perks, but let's start off with even choosing the location for your solo travel. What do you think is like key things to look for?
I would say key things to look for really reside within you, right? You have to know what it is you like and like to do and want to get out of the trip. I know for me, a lot of it has to do with, just those new experiences, history also, like that was, for instance, like when I went to Dubai, I was going, because I always said, I wanted to go. As a matter of fact, I wanted to skydive over Palm Island, but, I had a little bit too much weight. So I didn't know there was a weight restriction, to skydive. So while I was there, I was like, oh, well, let me see where else I can get to while I'm over in this region. And in Egypt, popped up. It's like, oh, well, I gotta go to Egypt. I mean, we always learn about the pyramids and King, all these great pharaohs and whatnot. So I'm like, why not go? So I booked a trip while I was on a trip to to Egypt, and that's how that happened. So for me, like I said, the history, the new experiences of it all, culture. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the biggest. We're not that different from one another. If that makes sense. Yeah. We just speak a different language. We like to eat. We like to, what about yourself?
Yeah, agreed. We definitely all love to eat and have fun. So that's usually across the board. I think with solo travel, again, your experience will be different, because I do think it is different being a man traveling alone and being a woman traveling alone. I think we pay attention to different things than you guys pay attention to, but I definitely agree in regards to what do you like? So aim for something. If you like beaches, then go to a place where there's a beach that you can enjoy. If you like history, go to a place where there is full of history, or they have some museums or just sites that you can go and see. That's definitely true. And I think the other piece of it is making sure, again, being a woman, I'll do a search first. There's some locations that are safe for women to travel to. You know what I mean? And I think that's a good place to start. Knowing what you like, then looking at the list to say, oh, okay, this kind of aligns with what I like. Let me choose that location to see where I would like to go. Your first trip doesn't even need to be like, you don't have to necessarily have to get on a plane to get there, but have the intention of, I'm going to do this by myself. It's really what I want to do. It's how I want to do it. It could be, you can live in New York and say, I'm going to venture to Jersey. I've never been to Jersey by myself. I'm going to venture to Jersey. I'm going to do a weekend in Jersey and see what they have to offer. You know what I mean? And Jersey's actually a really nice place to go. Like, there's so much to do in Jersey, New Yorkers like to give Jersey a bad rep. I particularly like Jersey. So even something that small, what it does is, one, you have, all the things that are going to get done is everything you want to do. Two,
Right.
it also builds confidence in like your ability. So when you finish that trip, you get back, you navigated what you had to navigate, and you got back, God willing, whole and safe, oh, I can do that again. All right, let's now go to Connecticut or whatever, right? You can just like slowly start venturing out a little bit out. And then that makes you just want to experience more things, and it helps you open up your thoughts and your mind. I mean, I went down south for my first trip, like went to Myrtle Beach, my first solo trip. But for me,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so nice. It was such a great trip. The thing is, I don't know if this is considered solo traveling though. Like before that, I've gone on a plane. I planned a trip, gone on the plane, and I just like happen to know people so I'll meet up with people, but then I'll also spend parts of the trip by myself. So I don't know if that's considered solo though. So I would say that trip, I didn't know anybody. Like I've never been there before. I literally just was like, I want to go to Myrtle Beach. I'm going to Myrtle Beach. And that's the end of that. And I got on the plane and I went. And so I was able to navigate things on my own. I didn't stay too close to home, but at the same time, I didn't feel like it was that far either. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to Egypt, and I just left. So for me, I felt safe. It felt nice. I knew Myrtle Beach had the things that I enjoyed. It had the beach. I love the beach. It had, at the time, there was a fair going on. So that was fun. It has food, love food. Had like, seafood, which I also love, and they had good transportation. I was able to catch cabs. They said it was safe to travel to. There was a Waffle House close by.
Waffle House, shout out to Waffle House.
You know what I mean? So I said, I'm going. We out there. We did it. And it was one of the best trips I've ever taken, honestly. It was amazing. It was great. So, and the weather was pretty good, and there was really no complaints for me for that trip at all. So I think those are key things to pay attention to. There are going to be naysayers. There are going to be people going to try to like make you scared for whatever reason. And that has to do with their own fear. Of course, to your gut when you are in a situation, but prior to, don't let those who've never done it scare you into not doing it.
Right.
People are
right.
big on that, like stopping people from experiencing things, but you've never done it. Why would you assume that the worst thing that's going to happen is going to happen to me then,
Exactly.
And so solo, I think traveling, it's a little easier in the sense of it's really on you to figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, and when you want to do it. Now, group travel, baby. Baby, I consider group traveling like 2 or more people. Groups, I know we like to think of like it's huge, but even having one extra person, it's still easier. It's definitely easier the less amount of people that's added. However, it's still more minds having to come together in agreement. And I think that's where it becomes more difficult. You have multiple personalities, multiple likes, multiple needs. Having to even get the planning done all the way into the actual execution of things takes a lot of patience. And I don't think it's for the weak or faint of heart. You can chime in on what your experience has been with group travel.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, you're right. I think less is more in terms of that. I know we talk a great deal about solo travel. So yeah, so you start adding people into the mix. Well, let's backtrack a little bit. First of all, when you talk about group travel, okay, everybody has to be on the same page when it comes to that, right? And your group, it may start out big. I think I'll know that. And then all of a sudden, when it comes time to start putting money into the pot, or buying your plane ticket or securing, hotel or Airbnb, everybody is like, oh, what had happened was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that right there really starts, I don't want to say the negativity, but that's where, it starts the downhill fall, if you will, because then you got pause. And I understand life happens, sometimes something comes up that unexpectedly that you just can't make the trip. And I get that. So starting with the planning phase, that's number one. 2, then traveling with like-minded people. I think that's the other component that people really don't understand.
Yes.
When you have too many personalities, that becomes problematic once you guys get to that destination, because you got a group, you may have 2 or 3, that want to do this, and another 1 or 2 over here that want to do this. And then that kind of creates havoc, because the whole point of a group trip is to kind of like do things together collectively. And so if you don't have that, if you have people that start breaking up into little cliques, if you will, oh, we're going to go over here and do that. And that's cool. There's no problem. When you have that downtime, I think, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But everybody has to be, on the same page when it comes to that. Some people want to wake up early, catch the sunrise. I don't mind doing that because I like watching the sunrise. And then you have some people that want to sleep in. Then they'll get mad at you because you didn't wake them for the continental breakfast that, I was supposed to have. Right. He was asleep. So, those, I think those are like the biggest things when it comes to, like the group travel, getting that schedule together and ironed out, like, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. And then the free time, that time is yours.
Absolutely. I think you touched on the 2 main things for group travel, had like bullseye. The first hurdle, honestly, is the planning, right? Where are we gonna go? When we gonna go? How much is it? How much are people willing to spend? And then the collection of funds, if that's how you're doing it, or people are purchasing separately, just kind of having to like, man, get all that together is, again, like why I say not for the faint of heart, simply because, shameless plug, I do travel consulting. And why did I get into travel consulting? Because I needed to get paid to be doing all this work when it comes to travel. People don't understand. People just go on a trip and they just see enjoyment. They don't understand how much work and energy goes in prior to that. Like, I always somehow became the designated person to plan trips and to wrangle stuff in until I got to a point like, no, I need to get paid for this because this is too much. This is too much. It's stressful. It's anxiety provoking. I like to shop. And get a deal, right? I like even whether it's travel or not. And there's also other aspects of things I like to experience. So people know that. So they always want to be like, hey, help me do this. Oh, hey, can you plan this? And it's like, okay. It takes so much time. It takes so much energy. You got to watch, the planes, how things are going with, that industry, because tickets be up, down, left, right, here, there. You know what I'm saying? You also have to be, in a sense, spontaneous enough to be like, oh, I see this thing and you ready to go. And that's how I travel, right? I don't be like, okay, in November, on this week, I'm going to travel. It'll be October 31st. And then I'm looking and I see, plane ticket, what? It's going down, boop. Right. And, but that's how I travel. Other people like to be a little more cautious. It has to be this time and we have to do this. And again, people have different reasons for whatever, but they see me traveling like that. And they're just like, they see me traveling rather. And they think, oh, wow, like you must be getting these, like, you must know this trick. And it's like, no, I just have an open mind. And I'm willing to be adaptable and flexible. And that's before I get to the destination, and that's when I get to the destination as well. And I think there's a level, like what you said, the second piece of it is who you're traveling with and traveling with like-minded people, because that can really make or break the trip. That can really make or break the trip. In my regular life, I am structured. I like order. When I travel, I am a lot more flexible. I'm more like, all right, yeah, there are things I want to hit and I want to see. We can get to them. If we don't, I'm also okay. If we decided, you know what, this beach was beautiful, and we decide, even though we had to go do blah, 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 long we didn't pay for it first. But, if we decide, you know what, I just want to stay on the beach and eat some seafood. Can we do X, Y, Z tomorrow? Absolutely. Whereas some people are like, no, we got to boom, 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 boom. That is not me. So if you are not that person, don't do that. And so people see me go and I do things. I can adapt, whether it's the situation, it's the location, it's the people I'm with. Other people are not like that. Some people want how things to be the way they want it, and that's what it is. Some people want to go on vacation and stay in the hotel. Okay, that's what you want to do. That's your money. Go ahead. Some people like to travel and they, are on a strict budget and they don't do much of anything. And that could be restrictive, you know what I mean, for the rest of the group. And so all those things have to be put into consideration. And when I do my travel consulting, I ask all these questions because that gives you the who, what, where's, and how much of a good time this person wants to have or is likely to have, right? Like all those things are important, especially if you're planning a group travel for people. If you're not going, but especially if you're going, pay attention to all those things. You know what I mean? Ask people their budgets, ask them what they're into, what type of trip this is. Some people might be like, I want to see all the sites. Other people like, I'm here to relax. When y'all get there and y'all didn't talk about this is going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. So all those things are essential. They absolutely can make or break a trip. And so keeping those things in mind is absolutely needed. It doesn't mean you'll have a terrible time, but it also doesn't mean that you'll have the best of times if you don't have a conversation about these things. But I think the more you do it, the more you kind of, get the hang of certain things. However, also keeping in mind, different people is going to change the mix, right? So if you're used to traveling with your sister and now you throw in one of your friends, you and your sister traveling might be awesome. Throwing your friend in there, it's your friend, but that ain't your sister's friend. So that changes the dynamic, right? You traveling with your boy, y'all be good, but then you throw in your other boy and now things are just weird. So all that plays a part for people to pay attention to. But I know you mentioned your sister and, trying to get her to travel, and she wants to travel with groups. Most people want to. They feel safe. You know what I mean? They think they're going to have a better time. And of course, you want company to do things that you've never done before.
Right.
But you know what? Waiting on people to travel, you will never travel.
That part. I think that's what a lot of people fail to realize. If you're waiting on others to travel, then, as you alluded to, you'll never experience that. And so, like I said, and it may not necessarily that you have to do it solo. Maybe you might, again, Facebook is a great tool to use. There are a ton of other groups that are out there, single women, single Black women. I even saw one that was like designated just for like women engineers, so like it's a group of women engineers that, love to travel. So I encourage my sister, to look into that. If her friends can't go, look into those other groups. Start making those bonds, and it is like it's very, I guess, unorthodox, if you will. Trying to meet someone online. I guess it's really no different than online dating.
Right.
But, you meet somebody, online that you kind of connect with, build some type of relationship with, and then, maybe you guys can go ahead on and join that group and travel.
Writing Our Own Stories Incorporated is an organization that embraces and uplifts authors of color and equips them with the tools and resources to write their stories. Writing Our Own Stories Incorporated provides seminars, workshops, and a collaborative writing group setting where authors can feel free to write. We believe in the transformative power of storytelling, and we will continue to make space for all stories to be told. Writing Our Own Stories Incorporated provides a safe and welcoming space for all aspiring authors to tell their story. If you're interested in joining our writing group or learning more about our organization, check out our website at www.writingourownstoriesinc.org. That's www.writingourownstoriesinc.org. And make sure and follow us on IG and Facebook at Writing Our Own Stories. Writing Our Own Stories, Inc. has released its debut book, For Black Women, by Black Women, an anthology of lessons learned. This debut anthology is a love letter to Black women and for everyone who loves, knows, or wants to support Black women. Purchase your copy of the anthology at www.writingourownstoriesinc.org. Again, that's www.writingourownstoriesinc.org.
That said, just go. Like we said before, it doesn't have to be someplace far and extravagant and international abroad. It could literally, as you said, to be the next state over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be out of the country. but definitely just go. Pull the trigger and just make it happen for yourself, because honestly, planning group trips take a lot of planning. So if someone doesn't want to take the lead on it, things are never going to get done. And if you're constantly waiting for someone to take the lead because you're not a planner, you're just not going to get things done, unfortunately. But nowadays, I think probably the past few years, a lot more of these travel groups have, submerged, and it's nice to at least be in a community of people who do travel and willing to travel. Again, it's still strangers, but it's still a group. You're not by yourself, so you have that level of safety in that regard. So if that's what you have to do it. You know what I mean? It's really, sometimes depending on your social circle, it's rare to find people who have the means to travel and the time to travel and have the want to travel like you do. So these groups may be a great place to go to meet like-minded people, to get your feet wet until you kind of get to the part where you're like, you know what, I don't need to wait on such and such anymore. I'll just go ahead and do it. I know actually one trip I went to, I did go with my colleague, but what we ended up doing, which is something you could do, you can plan a trip by yourself, do all that. But if you don't want to be there by yourself, again, if you're part of one of these travel groups, you can literally be like, hey, I'm in such and such a place. Who else is here? Right. And you can then meet up with people and, go through the social scene and do stuff. And you know what I mean? You don't have to necessarily have to experience that place and space by yourself. So there's so many tips and tools that you can utilize if you do want to, pull that trigger and start to travel, but you're not sure how to navigate it. You don't necessarily want to do it solo, but you don't necessarily have a group to go with. There's tons of ways to do that.
Absolutely. I want to go back to a point that you made earlier in reference to the flexibility. Right, and people thinking that you just have the secret. I hate telling people this, but there really is no real secret to finding the deals. You just have to be flexible in the time frame, that you're looking at going. Like for instance, I just booked a trip a couple of weeks ago to go to Nairobi. So I'll be going to Nairobi in October. I booked a trip for less than $400. The trip was like $375. It was less than that because I bought the trip insurance just in case. And that's a whole other thing. I don't normally get the trip insurance, but I had some things career-wise that may come up, which may cause me to have to cancel that trip. But at any rate, I bought the ticket because I was like, oh, wait a minute, Nairobi to go to Africa, from the US, that's a heck of a deal. So, 60 days out, I bought the ticket and I'm like, yeah, okay, we're going to November or October rather. So I'll be there for like 8 days and I'm already trying to figure out where else I can get to while I'm over there. Like I want to go to Zanzibar, I want to go to Tanzania. And somebody else just told me that I would have just missed the great migration of the wildebeest. Which now, it's kind of got me down in the dumps because I'm like, hey, I want to go on a safari tour. That'd be kind of cool to see him jumping over the river and doing all that, stuff in the Lion King. But yeah, you have to be flexible with your travel, and no, that's when you can get the best deals. But if you're fixated, like for instance, people's birthdays, I know that's a huge one. But if you're flexible, if you don't necessarily have to travel on that date, and you can find a better deal, maybe go earlier or after. Why not?
I think that's key. You have to be flexible and not necessarily be set in the ways or having to wait for special times and dates and things. But I think another big key component is, and we're going to get into Baecations as well, but another second component that's really also important is having or starting to have, this is something I suggest in my consultation business, is creating a travel budget. It don't matter. You may have nowhere in mind, but every paycheck putting aside some money so that when you are ready to go, you can just boop, boop, and that's not an issue, right? But I think that has to come with a mindset of travel being a part of your life and not just something some people get to experience, right? So when you, just like you budget for your rent and you're budgeting for food, you should put away money for travel. Because if that is, you making that a part of your life, it's something it's enriching to your spirit, it's enriching to you as an individual, do that. And it really will alleviate a lot of stress. I think, at least for me, since I started doing that years ago, of, oh, damn, I want to travel. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. And Mac and I are going to talk about in another episode about like how to really get some travel deals, but also there's some perks that comes to traveling. So sometimes you have to be able to like, you know, book things in a particular way, using credit cards or doing certain things to get certain perks. So keeping that in mind, but even if you have to, you know, put it on your credit card to get certain miles or some type of perks, okay, that's cool. But you know, you have the money there so that one, you can pay that off, or you have some money when you go on a trip to spend money, right? Like you don't want to go there and you can't really enjoy things because you don't have the funds, right? So you know you have money already set aside. That ain't your rent money. That ain't your, you know, your baby's money. Like it's your money and you can utilize it for what you want. I think those things are really, really, really important. The adaptability and having that budget for sure.
Absolutely. I agree.
So part of group travel, two people I consider group, is Baecations. We have a whole episode on Baecations. Y'all can go ahead and listen to that one, right? We talked about, you know, our experiences and some key things about to think of and look out for in regards to Baecations. But I think that Baecations are considered group travel because there's one other entity that you have to, you know, figure things out with.
And a couple.
Yes.
Play couple.
Right. I don't think you necessarily have to go on Baecations with everyone you're dating. Okay. That may not be necessary. All right. So I know people are like really like, oh, I want to go vacation. I want to go vacation. And they think you don't do that with everybody. Okay. I'm gonna throw that out there. Now, you are choosing, you know, to go with somebody, make sure, again, all the things we mentioned previously about group traveling, you need to make sure that that person also falls within that. Somewhat like-mindedness, right? They have the ability, they have the adaptability to travel. And in the planning phase, they are present, right? They are giving ideas. They are, even if they may be open, but they are not open in the sense of, because this is something that I hate with traveling. Now, but oh, don't worry, you know, whatever you want to do, it's fine. I'm cool with it. And then when you give suggestion, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do that. So then you're not open to everything.
Not open to it.
What do you want to do? Or they just do things and give no suggestions. No.
Right.
So your bae that you're choosing to go on this vacation with has to still be adaptable, has to be helping in regards to the planning, right? Have to be, if they're open, then truly be open to what you choose and whatever the case is. But so we kind of addressed some of that in our previous episode. For this part of the episode, I think it's important to, I'm not sure if we've really talked about really honing in on what are good vacation locations to visit. And I personally think that depending on where you go, depends on how long you guys have been together. Now, I want to hear your thoughts or opinion on that, but that's for me the biggest deal and biggest thing. So what are your thoughts on locations, choosing a location for a nice little couples retreat?
I just want to go on record to state, and I think I've seen this meme floating around, but it says a non-traveler couldn't date a traveler, if that makes sense, right? So segueing into ideal vacation locations, I think that's going to be, like you said, depending on the couple, what their interests are. I get what you're saying about the length of time, you know, in terms of, you know, where, you know, your vacation should be. There's so many moving parts to that, right? Ideally, I would probably say, you know, start out small. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't necessarily say go, you know, over the top with your first location. And, you know, it could be as simple as going down, you know, I'll use Myrtle Beach, you know, or in my case, you know, Ocean City, Maryland, you know, nice places that you can go and enjoy one's time and company. All right. I'll tell you, I took somebody that I dated, you know, I took her to Paris. I think she enjoyed, well, I know she enjoyed, you know, but that's something that I probably will never do again. It's probably something I won't do again. And it's not because we didn't have a good time there. We did. I just think that, that's like a one and done. Okay, I was with her, for a period of time and decided, hey, let's go to Paris. So I probably won't take another woman to, to Paris. Like, hey, I'm in love with you. And, let's go, But yeah, I honestly, it's to tie all that in. I think it really depends on the couple, what their, interests are. And yeah, it really is just about spending that quality time together. I don't want to say I have a policy, but when I'm on a vacation or just vacationing with somebody that I'm in a relationship with, right? I try to give my partner that time and attention. So I tend not to do a whole lot of social media posts, like checking the Facebook, kind of thing, because I really want to give her that time and attention. I think that's like the whole point of a vacation, really, spending that quality time together.
That's actually pretty key. Honestly, that wasn't even something that popped into my head initially, but that is true. Like when you are deciding, hey, I'm going to take this vacation with you, you do have to vacation a little bit differently, right? Because not only are you, experiencing a new place together, but you're having that experience with someone that you probably haven't had it with. And again, even if you have taken, multiple trips with your partner, if this is a new location, allow that to be a new experience and fully immerse yourself in that experience. So yeah, constantly being on your phone, doing that will take away from the experience for sure. Not to say you can't take your pictures and stuff, but not everything. Right. Take your pictures, your video, but it don't need to be on the gram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever the other places that it's on now, TikTok and all that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be right then and there. It's also really key. And that's actually a piece that I didn't think about, but really immersing yourself in the experience with your partner and in the place, because you may never have that experience again. You don't know, right? You may never visit that place again, and it may not be with that person again. So allow yourself to definitely have that, which is true. I didn't think about that piece of it, but I think, like, I hear what you say about, like, you made that trip with whoever you were dating, you went to Paris, and that now, which is also why it's important to choose wisely the wheres and the whos that you go places with, because that might now change the thought of a place for you now, right? Like now it's like, oh man, I forever have this memory of this particular place with this particular person. So it's important for that. I'm big on, if you guys are freshly dating, within the first 6 months, I start encouraged to take a trip within the first 6 months. If you are like, I can take this person seriously. Like, I think I see something more here. Not if you're just like doing whatever. Don't do that. But if y'all are like, I'm feeling this, and traveling is a part of my life. So I have to see this person, how they travel. Like I have to, right? Because it's a part of who I am. It's a part of my life. And just like what you said, I personally believe there is a difficulty that comes in if you are a traveler, dating someone who doesn't travel. There's so many pieces and components and even the love and passion that comes behind traveling that they just won't understand, to be honest, until they actually experience it. It's not to say it can't happen, not to say you shouldn't do it or give it a chance, but I do understand that piece of it. But within the first 6 months for me, I'm like, we're going to take a trip. Again, where that is within that first 6 months is not going to be extravagant. It's not. It's going to be, let's do a bed and breakfast in Jersey, right? And those are really cute. They're intimate. You can, go into town and see things, but it gives you a feel of how this person is when they travel. Are they tidy? Are they messy, right? Are they polite to people, right? Are they creative? Are they open-minded? You learn a lot about that individual. And I think leaning into past the 6 month mark, leaning more into the year mark, then I say you can venture, get on a plane and go somewhere a little bit further. I also like not going too far or too extravagant the first 6 months, because especially if it's very early within the first 3 months, you get to know the person, but you don't really know them like that. If you need a getaway, you can get home. Listen, whatever, judge me not, but I think about stuff like that. If I got a story to Jersey, I know I can jump in my whip and get my ass on home, within a couple hours or whatever the case is. I don't have to get on a plane to go. Like, that's important to me. Like, I can grab a cab. I will fuck the cab price. I'm paying for it. Let me go home. You know what I mean? But if you have to go someplace, it's early on, you don't know the person, you got to get on a plane to go there. or you staying there for like a substantial amount of time, like I think more than honestly the first trip, within a few months, 2 days is enough. I think that was more than enough. 3, okay. But taking a week-long trip, 5 days to a week with somebody you don't really know, I think that's too much. That's pushing it just a little bit. That can get a little messy. That's a little risky. But 2 days, I know after a day or two, all right, I'm taking my ass on home, but I need a quick getaway if I need to go. And that's important to me. So I have like different stages and places that I'm willing to go and do. Not past the 6 months into the year. All right, we can spread it out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We can venture here, venture there. But it's important to think about that personally. That's my own personal choice. But, you know, it's up to whoever. But think about those aspects before planning a trip. It might be nice because it's everyone's going to Mexico. Oh, babe, let's go to Mexico. Let's pause. Right? Assess this relationship first. Is this relationship
Mexico worthy?
Oh, worthy. Thank you already. Seriously, right? So those are things to really think about. But go ahead and jump in. You said you had a story.
Yeah, I don't know if we touched on that in the last one. This may have happened after we did that one. But real briefly, when you talk about having a quick getaway, all right. So I met someone in a travel group. You know, you hit it off well in terms of, you know, communication and talking on the phone, et cetera. And it was a while. We talked on the phone probably like maybe 3-4 months before we actually met. So we fast forward to the meeting point. I actually met her on her turf. You know, I flew across the country, and I had offered, you know, initially, you know, to get my own room in the hotel. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But she offered her place to stay. And, you know, I felt things were, you know, okay, cool. You know, if you're comfortable with that, I'm good with that. You know, cool. Fast forward, you know, that I should have knew something was up. The very first night, you know, we're out on the town, we're having a good time. We just left a bar, and now we're out probably at midnight-ish, getting some street food. So while we're waiting, you know, to get the street food, and she says to me, she's like, you remind me of somebody. And I'm like, really? Okay. Well, who? She's like, I can't put my finger on it right now, but you remind me of somebody. All right. So we fast forward a couple of days later. Now it comes out. I remind her of her ex-husband. These are her words.
She couldn't remember, though, her ex-husband?
Listen, we've been talking on the phone for 4 or 5, 3-4 months now at this point. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'm a very chill, laid back, kind of guy. I'm not like, over the top. I know sometimes you meet people, you like, dang, I didn't really get this impression from you, just talking or whatever. But I am me, right? I'm like through and through. Like nothing about me has changed. So anyway, yeah, she flipped the script. And so I'm staying at the house, and then all of a sudden, you know what? I think like by the third night, I decided I was going to sleep downstairs on the couch, because I'm like, this right here getting out of hand. Now, funny thing is, or interestingly enough, I had family and friends in this particular location, so I had places to get to if I needed to. Long story short, we went out for brunch, and I was like, yo, I was so uneasy, like it's like walking on eggshells. And to the point that I didn't even eat. I ordered food, but I didn't eat it because it was just that weird. So, I had me a few drinks. I'm like, well, maybe this right here, I don't know. I had her drop me off at the Greyhound bus station, and I took me a bus back to LA, and from LA I got on my flight to go back home. Because I was like, this is, so to your point about having, an escape, and then you see so many of these videos, whether or not they're true or made for entertainment, where people fly out somewhere or they get flued out, as they say, and you don't have a way to get, you don't have your own funds to get you back wherever. Yeah. That's paramount, especially in those early, stages, like you said, which brings me to another point that you may mention. You said within the first 6 months. So now let me ask you this: is going on a trip as more important or equally important to meeting the fam, right? Because meeting the fam once you get to that level, you like, yo, you meet my family. But, to your point about traveling together, you said within the first 6 months, you think you should, go on a trip. So how do you rank that?
Trip is first. I don't let people meet my family quickly or easily. Honestly, that's even if I see a future with this person, I still need to fill them out. A lot can happen within the first couple of months. Honestly, even I typically wait closer to a year to let them meet my family, to be honest with you. Like, let me rephrase that. There's members of my family, they may meet immediately. So, my chill cousin, we hang out all the time. If she over my house all the time, you're going to meet her anyway. Or, my sister, you know what I mean? Like, she can give okay. But my mom, my brother, my nephews, and certain other aunts, no. It's closer to the year. Now, this is when I've made a decision like, okay, I can really bang with this person. Like, and I really have some really real feelings for this person. Yeah. Well, traveling happens way before that because a travel could make or break my relationship. I'm not playing. Like, I'm dead serious.
We got to get this first.
No, okay. We have to. And we talked about in another episode, I think we talked about like who pays and all that stuff first. So, that is between you and your person. Early on, I'm completely okay with going Dutch. I'm 100% fine with that. And then even more recently, even seeing these videos, people getting flued out. And then the guy is like, oh, you're not going to let me have sex, and then embarrassing the girl and all kind of stuff. Listen, that is up to you. Hopefully y'all had conversations about all that stuff. Y'all know what's going down and what's not going down, and how it's going to happen, what's expected, XYZ. But that's definitely first for me. That's first. How about you? What kind of goes first?
Well, and sticking with your 6-month plan, I would say, traveling or going somewhere, but I think it's different for guys and girls with that. Mm-hmm. I know we kind of might be segueing into a whole nother conversation, but I like me. Oh, no. You're going to meet the folks. And the reason why I said you're going to meet the people, because for whatever reason, just lately have not been a good judge of character. So I may see something that I like. I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying? It's short, short, bad, blah, blah, blah.
Different,
Yeah. And then, but moms be like, nah,
that ain't it.
That ain't it. You need to let that go. And, but then, silly boys, boys will be boys. If they say, I like her, she look good and blah, blah, blah. And then, a couple weeks after your mom told her to kick her to the curb, now she really showing, the girl showing her true colors. So I would say, me personally, I'd probably be, hey, take you over here, see how you react, because I tell everybody this. Listen, my family, we a little off. So if you can, if you can make it around them, then you can make it anywhere. You know what I mean? So, you're good.
Actually, that's not the first time. You're not the first man I've heard say that, though. It's like they prefer their partner to meet their family right away. For me, I don't play with family. I don't know. I get it. Like, I get it. Parents have a way, family members have a way of assessing people differently, but I can't do it. I can't. I'll meet yours. Hey, whatever. That's your people's. I can't I don't know. For something about it. But I get the logic behind it, though. Maybe we should have a conversation about that. Maybe we should have another episode talking about, what's the etiquette and kind of like, how that goes in regards to that. Because I actually haven't thought about that in that way. And I think also as you get older, maybe we view those things differently as well. I think so. Yeah, for sure. To wrap this up, what are some takeaways? I know we talked about a lot of things, but what are some takeaways that you can give to someone listening or watching this who is interested in either taking their first solo trip or, wanting to group travel or take their first vacation? What are things that tips you can give them?
Tips I can give: a solo trip, do your research. Do your research on your location. That goes for both, men and women. That's paramount. Secondly, in terms of solo traveling, give people, your updates. Hey, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna check this place out. I'm gonna go. That kind of stuff. And I'll say, lastly, as far as solo trips is concerned, just it all starts with booking the trip. Once you put I'm like this. Once you put money on it, it's solid. You got to go through with it. As far as group trips are concerned, again, similar, do your research on if you on the people you're going to be traveling with, like, know I say know the location, but what you guys tend to do, while you're there. And then getting the money together, everybody being on board with getting the payments and stuff like that together. And that's for group trips. For vacations, again, knowing your partner's likes and dislike, which may or may not be easy to do within 6 months, but you guys can have some type of middle ground to meet on and take that trip. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be extravagant. Like I said, the cute bed and breakfast. That's a good idea. I would say that, and then just have fun and enjoy each other's time and company, while you're there.
All great tips. Thank you so much, Mac, for joining us. And so before we go, tell the folks where they can find you and coming up next for you.
You can find me at Mac the Travel Guy on IG. The same thing on YouTube. I'm working on my YouTube, so if you visit it, it's not a whole lot of videos up there yet. I'm working on getting it there. I mostly post on IG. The next great adventure is going to be me in Nairobi, like I said, in October.
Yes, I'm looking forward to them videos. Your videos be okay. I'll be like, oh, I want to go. They be so crisp and sharp. And like, I love how you just be having the different angles and different vantage points. Definitely keep that up. I'm looking forward to seeing how Nairobi goes. You're going to give me them pointers and some tips as well. Hopefully, get over there myself at some point. But thank you so much. So much, Mac. And I can't wait till our next recording.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Oasis podcast. I hope you were able to find something that resonated with you on your journey. Don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts and YouTube. Rate us and leave us a review and comment on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and YouTube. Share your favorite episode and like us on Instagram and Facebook. If you have any questions, comments, want to be a guest, or any show ideas, contact us at ajsoasis@gmail.com. That's AAYJAYSOASIS@gmail.com, or direct message us on Instagram and Facebook.